So at this point, I mean, you're building your brand, you're having success, you're still in Michigan,
Yes.
and then you get an offer that most people, I mean, you're definitely going to tell this story, but most people are going to be curious to hear this offer, hear this story, and how the whole thing went down and why you chose what you did.
Yeah. So just to give you guys a little backdrop so you can understand. So I was coming to Las Vegas twice a year. And it's important that you guys understand that because that helped get into some stores. I actually got an overseas deal that I didn't tell you about, but I got a guy from Germany that picked up the brand. I found him on a bus on the way to the Magic Trade Show. And he happened to have a question about the shirt that I had on. I was like, oh no, this is my brand. He was like, do you have a booth there? I said, no. But I was like, I got this brochure I printed at home on my computer with the team. And he was like, I'd like to, buy shirts too. I like this. I could sell this. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't take it serious. I took his order down. There's no money in hand, but when I got back to Michigan, money came. And what happened was I had a friend named Dre Baker, who was like a traveling engineer. He would buy shirts from me wholesale and just resell them or give them away to celebrities. So he ran across a guy who had been following, like we had really made a buzz. So we had been on TV, like at that time, BET 106 in Park, radio stations out with Funk Flex out in, New York City. It was a lot of big things that had been accomplished. And it's funny because I never went to anything. Mm-hmm. I would always stay at home. I just let the team do it. It just wasn't my thing. And he comes to me one day, he says, hey man, I can get you an offer. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I can get you an offer. One of the guys I do business with, he did it for somebody else. I don't quote me on this, but it was like some golf clubs or something. He's like, yeah, he struck him a deal. So I was just like, oh, sounds cool, whatever. Mm-hmm. So he comes back and he says, so I was like, who's the guy work for? He worked for Nike. So of course, me, I'm like kind of probably how you guys are listening to this. I'm not really worried. Okay. So what happens is my business partner, Dre Westbrook, Dre Baker, and then my friend Craig Brewer, who was part of the company at the time, they all said, yeah, Dre, let's see what it's about. So we put together a last minute business and marketing plan. Because remember, I had like piecemeal stuff. Mm-hmm. But now you're going to meet with a company like that, you need something for real.
Right.
So we put together something for real. And they went to the meeting. I didn't go. It just wasn't my thing. I know It sounds crazy. Like you got to offer an opportunity to present to this representative that works for Nike that could get you a deal. So they come back, they go out of town, they come back and they say, Dre, it's real. I said, really? They said, no, yeah. I was like, well, how real is it? It's like $3 million real. I was like, oh, wow, okay. But you got to know me personally to understand why I am the way that I am. I said, that sounds cool. I'm like, Nike's $1 billion company, right? So $3 million is really not a lot of money. You would think for somebody who doesn't have $3 million was like, and I'm like, okay. So, I am super excited, but I still kind of have doubts. I remember talking to Craig and Jim Brown. I'm like, this really is like, no, Dre, like, it's really like they basically present the deal, they broker it for you, and they wanted the slogan, live at your own pace. That was really all they wanted. They didn't really necessarily need the turtle, any of the other designs, but all that stuff would be frozen. And I was just like, okay, interesting. So I'm like, hey, you think we can get like 12 million, 15 million? And it was like, so they're going back, it's like, nah, this is like, you're pushing it, getting this. So I think the guy that did the golf thing or whatever it was, sold it to Nike, I think he may have got like 1 or 1.5 million. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, let me think on this. So of course, at this time, I got all my friends, people, like I said, because everybody's pitching. This is like a big pot of gumbo. Everybody's helping out. And I was like, man, sounds cool, but the broker gets a cut, taxes, this. And I'm like, it's not as much money as we think. Mm-hmm. And then I had everybody felt like everybody's in my ear. Well, at least half of it should be mine, right? Well, this much should be mine. Well, why does he get this much? Or why does she? And I was just like, yeah. So I turned it down. I said, no. Did I have $3 million? I didn't have $1 million. Mm-hmm. Now, we had sold, I'll be honest with you, we had sold quite a few shirts. So we were in the 6 figures. Mm-hmm. And I was working with a guy, because I was a school teacher at that time. So the principal, Nate, told me, he said, I want to introduce you to this guy. He's good with finances. And he sits me down. I remember we working on this plan, mapping stuff out. And he says, you know, I won't tell you to take or accept a deal, but what I will say is this. If you can make the type of money you've done, and he said, please don't take this the wrong way, but he was like, you don't even know what you're doing. You have no knowledge. But he said, you're on to something. And he said, I remember he said, I wouldn't even mind investing, because he said, obviously you're on to something because you've made it this far, basically just calling audibles, literally calling audibles.
Yeah.
I know I said, I don't suggest that. It doesn't work for everybody. And it's not, now with what I know, it's not the best thing to do. But I just said, no, I'm going to say no. I remember my mother, she was like, she didn't put up. She was like, do whatever's going to make you happy. I had a lot of people in my ears telling me to do it, because why? It's Nike. You can't go to war with Nike. Why? You don't have any money. They could just take it if they wanted it. And I was this close to almost like, you know what, you might be right. Then I said, nope, I'm going to go with my gut. And my friend Joy came to me and she said, Dre, I respect whatever decision you're going to make. She did say, though, you're going to have to leave Michigan. She said, like, that's literally why we moved. Most people don't know that. Most people think I just wanted to get out of my city. Yeah, I love my city. I didn't want to leave. But she was like, you have to find a way to be able to make that up. She said, because if you turn it down, you need to find a way to be able to make it, right? I said, that makes sense. So she said, you got to pick a big city. And it was like New York or LA. And I was like, man, you know, I love New York. I love the hustle of it, but I could never live there. I love LA because I'm a real laid back person, but it costs too much, just like New York costs too much. And then she was like, why don't you just go to Vegas? You're already going there twice a year anyway, you know, hustling your way out there, learning the industry. You got some family in Cali. So I was just like, yeah, bet, let's do Las Vegas. Like literally, out of all the places in the world. I was like, sure. I just literally said, sure. And then my business partner, Dre Westbrook, Jim Dre forced my hand. He bought a ticket and moved out here. Literally. Bought a no job, no nothing. He just bought a ticket. It was like, yeah, I'm moving in August. And I was like, oh, okay. So I said, yeah, we'll all move in August. Well, August came, he moved by himself. Then September, then October, then November. But he knew that I was loyal and he knew I wasn't going to leave him hanging.
Right.
But he knew he had to force me to get out of there too. I kept coming up with excuses. So December 31st, 2007, I got on the plane and I came here. And I said, well, let's figure this thing out. Literally calling more audibles. Because we had mapped out this game plan on how we were going to do this. We were going to buy this vehicle, drive the strip up and down all day, advertise. It didn't quite work that way. It doesn't work that way because it was like we had nowhere we were selling the shirts. We were like, we didn't really have a real website at the time. But it was in my mind, it sounded good.
Yeah. And then, did you have the trademark of Live at Your Own Pace? Is that why Nike contacted you?
So, yeah, I own that trademark.
Gotcha.
I had, and the funny thing was, it wasn't trademarked at that time. It was only the turtle logo trademarked at that time. The turtle was the first thing that I trademarked. Then I did the Live at Your Own Pace. And it was one of those situations to where I think it was just a concept of what the brand was representing. Because it was, like I said, we picked up a lot of momentum, a lot of momentum. I almost say sometimes I do have some regrets because I feel like I should have went to the meeting. I should have got a chance to really absorb it and see for myself because I'm a salesman, you know? But I wanted other people to speak for me because I was too cool, you know? I was just like, no, I'm like, literally, I was like, no, you know, I remember being like, my friends, they went on 106 and Park on BET. I was like, you guys are on 106 and Park. And I was like, no, I'm here with you. I was at the barbershop kicking it in Ann Arbor at the time, in Ypsilanti, actually, watching it on TV. I was like, man, we really on TV. But I'm sitting here kicking it with y'all. You know, it was just, that's how I was tied and connected to the people that I was dealing with hand to hand, man. So that was my foundation, you know.
Hey, so you made a long trip from that foundation to having to get into the business world and learn a lot along the way and how to do, more formalized structures and that kind of thing. And
correct.